can't hold me back, you can't hold me down. Put me in the game, gotta get it right now. Whoa, on me, you know I'm the one and only. All them other ones is phony. Moving like a drum, I'm on beat. Whoa, yeah, you could put the pressure on me. I ain't never getting cold feet. Straight top where I'm gon' be. I got no time to debate. I put my reps in like every day. I keep it moving, I don't like the way. I just keep adding these wins to the plate. I ain't worried about a setback. With a loss, I'ma get back. Going up on a jetpack. All the haters, you can sit back.
Welcome in, everybody. Welcome into another episode. This is the last division of our 2023 team previews. I'm Mike LaPlant, and I'm welcomed here by my friend Jordan Schultz. How's it going, buddy?
Doing great, man. It's ready to knock this last division preview out and then kind of really start getting ready, locked in for the fantasy season.
Oh, yeah. I know as a Cowboys fan, you're ready to talk about the NFC West.
Yeah. The most hated team right now.
It's just I find that funny because it always seems like the Niners are matching up with the Cowboys in the playoffs. But,
and they kick our ass every time. Packers, I mean.
That's fair. They kick our ass every time too, but hey, we'll move on. We digress. So, as you know, like always, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel down below. If you enjoy what we do, get that notification bell ready. You can know whenever we come out with a live show or when any of our recordings come out. You can, double rewatch all of our team previews. Like we said, this is the last division, so we got 28 other team previews out there that you could just blow right through. But also make sure you become an all-access member to Fantasy Six-Pack and get our award-winning rankings, draft cheat sheet that just came out for our fantasy football players. I know we're still in fantasy baseball season, but we're getting there, guys. And then you get, projections, custom league advice in our Discord. You get access to each and every one of us. I know Joe, he's a top 5 fantasy pros ranker. You can get access to him. We got 5 guys in the Fantasy Pros Challenge for their rankings contest. So,
I'm doing my best in fantasy baseball ever this year, and it's not a coincidence. It's when I started working.
That's fair. Joe and Keith, they know their crap. Keith was the number 1 guy last year for the preseason draft rankings. So, if you guys want to get in on that Discord channel, that Fantasy Six-Pack All Access member, you can use F6P NFL right now. You can get 15% off. Already at fantasysixpack.net/plans. Go check it out, guys, and you can have all access to us. But other than that, let's jump into this San Francisco 49ers preview, Jordan, and we'll get it started off here with the quarterbacks. All right. Last year, we saw Brock Purdy take the Niners to the NFC Championship. But just a couple of years ago, we saw them trade multiple first-round picks for a guy called Trey Lance, the guy, second guy on this list. And then, sure as shit, this year comes around, both of them are injured, and they go out and sign a former first-round pick in Sam Darnold. So, now that both are recovering from that injury and Sam Darnold's getting all the hype in the training camp here, I'm kind of curious, first off, who do you think is going to be the week 1 starter? And then, who's going to be the best quarterback that plays on this team for this year?
So, that's tough. As far as week 1 starters go, I had to put money on it right now. I would say Trey Lance. I don't know if it's been confirmed that Brock Purdy is going to be ready for the start of the year, but Tommy John surgery, it's hard to imagine he's back ready to go 100% for the start of the year. So I'd go with Trey Lance, I think, to start the year. I think if he's the same guy he was, back in college, like 3-4 years ago now, he's the most talented guy on the roster. But I was trying to go back and find instances of guys that have had a career like him, where last college year gets canceled, which obviously didn't happen a lot till COVID stuff happened, and then missed most of their first 2 years, and then has had a good fantasy career after that. And I haven't really found anybody that jumps out and has met those qualifications. He's got a very large uphill battle to get back to where he was before. But he's the guy I'd want here. I don't think Brock Purdy is that good. I think he's just a guy. I don't think he's a guy you want for fantasy, really. But Sam Darnold, he's a guy that I've had a soft spot for since he came into the league. And every single time I'm out on him, he seems like he gets a chance to come back in, has a couple good games, has a couple of throws that are just ridiculous, just pure arm talent throws, gets sucked right back in.
And he's got the legs.
I'm just thinking, man, if Brock Purdy could do what he did last year with this supporting cast, I think Sam Darnold could be a decent quarterback 2 option for fantasy leagues if he's the starter and he's even 90% of what I think he can be. Not that he's anything special, but you've seen anybody basically just get inserted in there and that offense just keep humming along. And Darnold arguably has one of the better arms out of anybody that's been in there the last few years, like Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo before that, just in terms of like pure arm talent. So that's the one that I'm kind of interested in. I have him on a few best ball teams, grabbed him in like the very last rounds, just to kind of see what happens. You never know.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what they do with Darnold. I am curious, though, if you had to choose right now, gun to your head, who is the week 1 starter? Because I know Trey Lance is still recovering from the broken ankle. You got Purdy coming off the Tommy John. I mean, Sam Darnold's kind of, he's getting the hype to be the week 1 starter. So I'm just curious, gun to your head, who do you choose?
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance?
I'm just going to say the talent wins out. I think he's the best talent out of the 3 here.
Absolutely.
He's going to be the one.
And they traded multiple picks for him. So, I mean, they want to see what they got in that player. So I agree with you on that one. Now, for redraft purposes, I'm kind of staying away from this, but best ball purposes, there is some value to be had here.
Yeah.
But let's go to the real value for this team here, and let's go to the running backs. And let's talk about CMC. All right. We already know Kyle Shanahan is basically King Midas of turning running backs in fantasy football into gold.
Yeah. I
mean, he picks a guy off of free agents and he just inserts in their gold. So, being that this is the best situation in CMC's career, and let's be honest, the best running back Shanahan's ever had. I mean, is CMC the hands down number 1 overall pick right now? And if he's not, how many players are you drafting ahead of him?
So I don't think I would have him number 1, but I would have him right there in the mix for the first running back off the board. But I think for most leagues, I would rather have like Jefferson. I think someone that's a little bit safer there. Obviously, we're talking super flex, bump a bunch of quarterbacks up ahead of him, but if we're talking just like a standard 1 quarterback league, I mean, I'm taking Justin Jefferson over him. Jamar Chase, I think, has an argument there. And then after that, I mean, that's where CMC kind of slides in. He's right in that conversation. I think there's a few guys you can maybe make an argument for. But yeah, I think somewhere between that 3 to 5 spot is where he's going to go off the board in most drafts. Some of the leagues always go running back heavy, so you may see him go earlier than that. But I think 3 to 5 is kind of that spot where I'm looking to grab him in the leagues this year.
And I don't disagree with you. I know with last year, the running backs kind of falling off a cliff a little bit. The strategies this year have changed to heavy wide receiver
my
early.
Dynasty brain too. Like I'm just so used to building around receivers. It's just what comes natural.
True that. It's just I look at it from a redraft purpose here, and if we're playing PPR, half point PPR, I can't see any other player if they play a full season scoring more points than CMC in this offense.
Eckler, maybe. I think he's probably the only other one.
Yeah, just with the efficiency that Shanahan knows how to run a running scheme, and then the talent we know with Christian McCaffrey, he doesn't have to go off the field. It's more of a situation he's going to be taken off the field either by Shanahan or injuries. And with that being said, those injuries, Elijah Mitchell took a decent amount of work down the stretch last year. I'm kind of curious. Do you think he's, more of a handcuff only in this offense, or you think he's going to be more of an AJ Dillon, a Tony Pollard, where it could be a flex play for the year?
Yeah. So I think that if you have Christian McCaffrey, he's your number 1 priority in terms of handcuffs. You need to go grab him just because he's shown he can produce in this offense. But in terms of what I think he'll be, assuming CMC is healthy as well, I do think that he could kind of challenge for that AJ Dillon. I think that's a really good comp. I hadn't really put that one together, but that's a good comp. I think that's a role he could have. This team has so much talent. They're going to want to be playing for the playoffs. They're not going to care necessarily about getting the number 1 seed in the regular season. So I could see there being times where CMC takes not necessarily a back seat, but enough to where Mitchell comes in and takes enough work to where, he's taking off 6 to 7 of the fantasy points in the backfield.
Stealing some red zone carries.
Right. And so I think he could have some flex play or flex appeal. Probably not as much in your 10 and 12 team leagues, but anything deeper than that, I definitely think he's a priority guy you can grab. One of the best targets out there if you're going more of a zero or a hero running back strategy. One of those guys in the mid rounds that could really pay off big. I mean, even if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, I think there's going to be weeks where he's very effective for your team as well, too.
Just because of how efficient, Shanahan knows how to run an offense. I'll tell you what, he doesn't know how to win playoff games, when it matters, but he knows how to win the regular season games, and that's what we play. That's what we use in fantasy football. So let's move on here to the wide receivers then. And, there is some intrigue here. You got Deebo Samuel going right now, and this is underdog ADP. So it's going to be a little different from redraft ADP because we don't have that yet. But Deebo Samuel's going as the wide receiver 17, 33rd person off the board. That's just kind of a testament to how early wide receivers are going this year. And then you got Brandon Aiyuk going, a couple rounds later at wide receiver 28, 52nd overall. So, knowing that information, I'm kind of curious, who are you targeting this year out of these receivers? Is it Deebo Samuel, getting the little bit of a discount, or are you going targeting Brandon Aiyuk with the hype out of training camp, with the quarterbacks?
So this may be a bit contrarian here, but I'm going to go with Aiyuk. I think Deebo, the addition of Christian McCaffrey and then having Elijah Mitchell there, I think part of what made him so special was that extra little bit he made in the rushing game, right? I don't think they're going to be as inclined to give him those touches now. Like, you're not going to completely write him out of that, but I think it's going to be enough to where, like, it's more of just kind of an afterthought, not something you can really count on like you could before.
It's a trick play.
Exactly. It's going to be a trick play, gadget play kind of thing you see once every couple of weeks. As far as Brandon Aiyuk goes, I mean, he was the wide receiver one last year, even when they were both healthy. I think I'm to the point now where I'm ready to flip-flop them in my dynasty ranks. Before I had Deebo, I think I'm ready to flip Aiyuk ahead of them. I've kind of felt that way for a while, and the more I look at it, the more I go back and watch the film. Like, Aiyuk is just such a crisp route runner. Seems like for whatever reason he was in the doghouse last year and the year before that. But he's still, like, when he's out there, he's just so good. He was able to get over 1,000 yards last year, had 8 touchdowns. Big thing was, he kind of cut down on the mistakes that had Kyle Shanahan had mentioned him early in his career. And I think that last year is really going to be a floor of what you can expect this year. So I'm all in Aiyuk as far as like the receiving group goes here.
Yeah, I know I'm still upset when the Niners jumped ahead of the Packers and drafted him when we were looking for a wide receiver that year, because he is talented, man, and he absolutely can be the number one receiving threat on this team, I think. But I mean, I don't think there is, but I just got to ask you, is there anybody worth paying attention to behind these two, receiving wise, for wide receivers?
No, I mean, I think if you're in like a deep league, like 20-team league, like maybe Juwan Jennings, just in case one of the Deebo or Aiyuk goes down. But as far as like your 12, 10-team leagues, like, no, there's nobody here I'm really even putting on my watch list at this point. It would take multiple injuries. Even if, say, one of Deebo or Aiyuk goes down, I think that's better for Kittle and the running backs than it would be for any of the wide receivers behind them.
I love you, Jordan, because that's a great transition here into our tight ends to go and talk about George Kittle. So, I'm curious, Kittle as well as I do. He has some injury concerns. It's just his play style. It is what it is. Knowing this and knowing you're probably going to miss a couple games, is he still an elite tight end option that you're willing to invest high draft capital in this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all, relative compared to like the rest of the tight end position. Like, you don't have to go up and get him in like the 3rd round like you had to a couple of years ago, like when he was really in his prime. You can get him late. And so, yeah, where he's going, I'm more than happy investing in him right there. There's, like you said, there's going to be times he's going to be out. He's a little bit of an up and down player. You go look at his game log last year. It wasn't like he was consistent every week. He definitely had some duds mixed in there.
Seemed like when Purdy came in, he just took off.
But what tight end doesn't have those games? You know what I mean? Like, there's very few guys that you can lock and load every single week. And the weeks he does have where he hits, I mean, they're potential like weekly like league winners on those sense when he is, goes off for that 15, 20-point games, when a lot of the guys outside of like the top 3 or 4 tight ends, you're scraping by trying to get 5-6 points out of that position. So yeah, where he's going, absolutely, I'm definitely okay investing in him. I think he's my 2nd most owned tight end across my teams right now.
Okay. Now, with that being said, knowing that the 49ers did draft Cameron Latu in the 3rd round here, and then you got Charlie Warner, but I'm not really worried about him. It's more Latu I'm concerned about. I mean, do you think it's going to be a depth position here, or is he going to play in like an actual role that's going to eat into Kittle?
I think it's just going to be depth, mostly as a rookie. I mean, you do have to pay attention just because, he went in the 3rd round, which kind of surprised me. I had him as more of like a 5th or 6th round guy. So that being said, maybe Shanahan has a role in mind for him, but I think it's going to be more as like a blocker, just kind of like a depth piece to kind of bring Kittle off the field for a couple of plays here and there, keep him fresh. So yeah, I don't think you need to worry about anyone behind them. Latu, he was a decent pass catcher in college, so if anything did happen to Kittle, and there's rumors that he's going to move into that starting role, it might be worth just grabbing, especially like a taxi squad spot in a deeper league. But as far as redraft leagues go, nothing I'm really too worried about. I'm all in on Kittle here. Oh, I can't hear you, man. I think you're muted.
Thank you for calling me out on that one. I appreciate you. I was just basically saying how I agree with you, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a 3rd round pick. I mean, we know how rookie tight ends don't develop fast. It takes a couple of years here. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, that pretty much wraps up our 49ers preview for our 2023 team previews. Make sure, like I said, like and subscribe down below. And if you like what you're watching, hit that notification bell. It'll let you know every time we come on and a new video is released. And then make sure you use that F6P NFL for a 15% discount at fantasy6pack.net/plans for our all access membership. Trust me, it's worth it, guys. But other than that, for Jordan, I'm Mike. Peace out, guys.
See you.